Hello and welcome to the very first Appy Hour video. One of my goals this year is to help share technology, new technologies, or technology we already have in our district. Kind of like a tutorial stuff, mostly like highlighting some things that either we have in the district and maybe not everyone is using, or maybe highlighting something that somebody in particular is using that's really cool. And so I thought I would start off the very first Appy Hour little webcast here with a ScootPad kind of tutorial basic thing. We're going to go a little bit more in depth with this in a couple of staff meetings later on this year, so don't get yourself too crazy with having to follow along with everything that we do, but this will definitely hopefully get you maybe started or at least familiar with it, so when we do talk about it during our staff meetings that you'll be like, what's ScootPad? So now, don't let the name Appy Hour confuse you. This will not take an hour, but you can definitely drink while you listen to it. That's totally up to you, as long as it's outside school hours. So anyway, so here's ScootPad. I'm logged in as my admin account, so I just want to show you a couple of things. I was really hoping to show you this like my school impact with all of the questions that we've answered, but for whatever reason, it's zeroed out right now, which is so lame. So I'm just going to skip ahead. I'm going to go to a teacher login screen here just because I want to show you a couple of things. And I'm going to pick on my wife as a teacher because she uses this really well. And during our staff meetings, we'll have her explain kind of exactly how she uses this. And so I'm not going to go too in depth with that. So like I said, this is going to be just a quick overview what the site looks like. And I will also show you kind of what the kids will look at on the iPad. And then, of course, what it also looks like on the web, too. So a teacher dashboard looks kind of like this. You have your classes set up. Most of us have just one class set up. You can certainly create another one if you would like to. I believe we can put students in multiple classes, but we'll look into that if we can't. So this is what you'll look at when you log in, and your login information for this is going to be your email address, and everyone's password I believe is Sydney, but if you already use something else, by all means use whatever it is that you logged in before. I can change passwords, so that's not an issue. So looking here, we have a whole bunch of different things here. There's a whole bunch of stuff on the class wall. You can see recent practices that have been taking place. So if students have, and you can see here's several students that have done an activity, they can, you can see their scores or how they did, and it changes for math and language arts as well. So you can kind of see both of those, which is kind of cool stuff. Down here, oops, let's scroll down just a little bit here. You have a leaderboard here. You can see which students have answered the most questions. So if you really wanted to incorporate this into some sort of a goal setting thing for your students, you definitely could. So a couple of really cool things. That's the dashboard mainly. So if you can get logged in and check out the dashboard, if you have not used ScootPad, you know this is going to be blank and this is going to be blank. But if your students have used it a couple of times, you should start seeing that information there. So what I wanted to kind of do and look at is in each of these subjects. So we have language and math. I'm going to back up just a second. We upgraded our ScootPad to the Ultra Premium, so we have a lot of features in it now, a lot more than we had with just the Light Premium that you used last year. So we're going to get into that this year, and I would probably maybe do a couple more of these videos to kind of explain. But for now, I just want you to kind of get familiar with some of the things that you'll see. And one of the things is learning paths. You can create learning paths for students. So I'm just going to jump into the math ones here. You can see that Mrs. Meyer has created a learning path that's aligned with a second grade Saxon Math. This is what's really cool about this. You can create these paths and you can actually share them. You should be able to share them with other teachers so that they can use that same path basically. So what could happen is we have some teacher who maybe is like a sucker or whatever. You just sucker them into just doing all the work basically, aligning the Common Core standards with our math that goes with Saxon, and then sharing that with everybody else. So that's kind of a cool thing. There are also these shared learning paths that are already created over here, and you can see that we have ScootPad Common Core for all the different grades. So you could actually grab one of those, copy it if you wanted to your own. So there's some that are already created. From what I understand, they're creating or working on getting a bank of these shared learning paths so that teachers from all over can use them. So that'd be kind of a cool thing. And then here, of course, you can create your own learning path as well. So here's her learning path that she's created, and this would be the screen that she could actually share from. So you can see it's a kind of a big one. It's got 90 concepts in it, so it's definitely it includes everything that Saxon Math has. So kind of cool stuff. This is what we'll be working on. Don't feel like you have to do this on your own. This is something that we'll probably do during some sort of a staff meeting at some point in time. Give you some work time to actually kind of play around with this. And you could make as many of these learning paths as you wanted to. So if you wanted to do one per unit or whatever, that could definitely be. So if you wanted it in kind of smaller chunks, you could do that. There are placement tests that go with this. Also, you can assign things. This is kind of cool too. And this is kind of how Erin uses this in her classroom. She'll find a concept, basically have an assignment for it, assign it when she's taught the concept, and so it's kind of used as like a formative assessment. So you have this ongoing assessment, checking for understanding after you've taught certain units or subjects or lessons or whatever it happens to be. And then you can see and get a kind of snapshot of what students, might need extra help on that, or which students have got it and figured it out. So some kind of cool stuff, and that's, like I said, what we're going to be going over in the next few weeks during a staff meeting. But I do want you to get kind of familiar with your ScootPad dashboard. So logging in would be a good thing, just so that you kind of understand where a few things are at, broken down into subjects, and we'll kind of get into this. I think a good goal for everyone would be to get into ScootPad, start using it with math and language arts for students for extra time, for supplement, that sort of stuff, kind of using it to assess skills. So I'm kind of running along already on my first Appy Hour post here, but I do want to show you really quickly what it looks like for a student. So I'm going to kind of realign stuff here, and I'll be right back, and I'll show you what a student would see. So. Okay, so I have an iPad set up here. Try to line this up the best I can. I've got a student signed in. It's really hard to see on this. I think I have terrible lighting or something. But this is kind of what they'll see. They have on here the different types of activities that are there, and then basically they have a little button over here that says launch. So when the students get in there, and I'm going to apologize, this is a terrible view here, but they can pick on here math, ELA, or even spelling. They can do their practice. They can just launch a practice right from there. So that's kind of how the students get in there. I think most of us kind of know that already, but I did kind of want to show that to you just a little bit quicker here. So I'm running on 8 minutes. I wanted to keep this at 5, so imagine that I went over. Like I said, we'll talk about it more at some staff meetings later on. So hopefully you can get in and kind of get comfortable with how ScootPad looks. And so we'll do some more later on. So happy hour.